Hello, Pile One, and welcome to your love reading. Let's just get into it. The first part with the first three cards here is answering the question of how love is finding you right now. And we have Locket from Hey Arnold. That's Helga's Locket. We have Stephanie from Steven Universe and Sea Duck, which, oh my god, was it DuckTales? I don't remember. I was a kid, like tiny, when that show was airing. The point is, I do remember that the plane belonged to the main character and they went on all these like cool adventures together. What am I seeing here? I'm going to skip through Locket because that's where I want to end up. If you are aware of Harry Arnold, if you remember that show and you remember Helga's Locket, you already know where I'm going with that, but I'll get to that in a second. Stephanie and Sea Duck together both are talking about having something to show for what you've been working on in some way, shape, or form. With Stephanie, it's a little more personal, a little more internal. And so the work that you've been doing internally, the development that you've been doing internally is showing up externally, like physically, like you look better because you've been working on like yourself internally, your energy's better, you're coming across like more mature, more developed. Maybe not by everybody, but like the people who meet you at this new stage recognize you as a different person than they would have if they had met you before all of this development. And Sea Duck being kind of like the vehicle through which a lot of things are enabled for these characters. If I'm not mistaken, it's also kind of like a business for this person, for the character. I could be wrong about that, but that's what's coming through anyway. It's having something to show for the work you've done, like, okay, numerous things are coming through where it could be like you've been going to school, so you're about to finish school and you're about to have your degree for it, or you have your degree for it, or you got the job because you got the degree for it. You've been working really hard for promotion and you got that promotion. You've been working on starting a business, on getting an idea off the ground, and that's like starting to show itself, like the event happened or the thing happened. Like there's something that you can show for something that you've been working on. The scale to which that will reach will vary depending on you. Like it could just take that as it applies. So how is love finding you? Rather developed, and something like there's this recognition of you basically where you're being offered congratulations for how far you have brought yourself. And that part's important. How far you've brought yourself. You have worked on yourself, and so you have something to show for it. Even if you feel like you don't, like it is recognized. But okay, with Locket, if you are not familiar with Hey Arnold, the Locket belongs to the school bully. Everybody knows Helga to be a bully. Even to the main character, Arnold, who is in fact animated to have a football-shaped head. You can look it up. The main character Arnold has a football-shaped head. That's just the art style and stylistic choices that they made on that show. And so Helga, the character to whom this Locket belongs to, aptly calls Arnold football head, which is just one of the very many colorful and very creative names and insults that she has to hurl at him throughout the entire show. But what we find out is that she is actually secretly obsessed and in love with Arnold, to like almost a concerning point where like she's writing borderline erotic poetry about this child, and she herself is a child, so it's not like it's inappropriate, but like it's inappropriate because you're a child. Where are you learning these things? But she also like has this locket that she holds this like picture of him in, and this little love letter to him in, even has a shrine of Arnold in her closet. Like she's obsessed. She's down bad. Like she's in love. And so how's love finding you? Yes, you yourself, you're developed and you have a lot to show for it, but you're harboring, I don't even want to call it a bit of a crush. You're like crushing hard. You have severe feelings for this person. Severe feelings, like to the point where even you yourself may like recognize just how bad it is. And I'm willing to bet that it's also a secret. Now, there's so many ways, there's so many things that could mean. What it means to have a secret feelings like this. There are so many scenarios for why you would need to keep this a secret, and I'm not going to touch on that. But you'll know what that means. Okay, so that should be a confirmation. We can move on to the next bit of confirmation, if that's true for you and you can understand that that's you. Because the next three cards are answering the question of what are we talking about today specifically, which is what the tarot cards here at the bottom are going to be getting into, basically. Scythe, Lily, and Mice is very clearly, it's a clear message, but it can be applied differently to your own situation. Okay, let me just get into it. Scythe is the ending of something. It doesn't necessarily have to be an abrupt stop, like it stops all of a sudden, but definitely a stop that, like, it's not, okay, so the example I'm about to give, I am in no way saying pertains to your reading. I'm just giving you an example of what Scythe could mean. If I were to do a reading on, like, quitting a bad habit, and Scythe came up, Scythe would be advising, quit it, cold turkey, and don't ever touch it again. Like, it's an end that, like, you maintain. It's an end that you, like, once it's done, that's done. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you give up on it. It's just like, until I pick it back up again, it's kind of done. So what is ending? What did you put an end to? What did you cut off? Lily, cleanliness, purity. Now, this is not a Puritan or a Christian understanding of purity or cleanliness where, you're not having fun per se, or even if that's just like, take it as it applies, where to me what Lily is pertaining to is that there seems to be, it's basically pointing to, sorry if you heard that touch of the microphone, it's basically pertaining to what Stephanie and Sidok were talking about, what you've been working on, the integrity, that's what I'm getting from Lily, the integrity of whatever it is that you were keeping nice and clean and to yourself, and maybe not to yourself, but like there was something that you were maintaining really, really well. And whether it was for this individual that you have these crazy feelings for, or maybe it was for a different reason, I'm not getting too much of the specifics of why you put an end to this thing that you were maintaining integral. You were maintaining its integrity, rather. But you did. You, for whatever reason, took a pause. This kind of feels like you made a decision that went against your values. You made a decision that you wouldn't have done if you didn't feel a certain way. And so it kind of made you, like, maybe because it wasn't panning out between you and this person that you have feelings for, or for whatever other reason, you felt like, well, what's the point of keeping all of this integrity if I'm not, like, basically getting the returns from it that I was hoping for? And so you maybe, like, made a decision that, again, put a pause to that, like, that basically compromised that integrity. Take it as it applies, whatever that integrity means for you. And Mice there at the end is the consequence of that. So, like, you don't keep your area clean where pests can get to it, then pests are going to come through. Mice. So if we look at the cards, and if you're not looking at them, allow me to describe them to you. Scythe by itself, she's outside out in a field with a big old scythe. But the two other cards, Lily and Mice, are in the exact same environment. In Lily, she's doing her laundry, and right, like, behind her, but off to the side, is the, it's like a furnace to, keep, like, it's an old-timey furnace to keep, like, the room clean. The room warm. And that's kind of where she's working, near the furnace. And then in Mice, she's up on a stool, and behind her is that same furnace that we see in the Lily card. And so it's like those two cards coming up together of cleanliness with Mice, and then Scythe giving this idea of putting an end to cleanliness. It did bring to mind that, like, idea that I gave where, like, you don't keep an area clean, pests are going to get in. You don't keep a kitchen clean, ants, roaches, mice, whatever pest is kind of happening in your area, that's gonna, like, come and look for that food, and now you have this thing to deal with. So the point blank message that I'm getting from these three cards, and you're gonna have to translate it as it applies to your own circumstance, is the consequence of not keeping clean. So different examples to kind of give you, if you're having a hard time kind of honing that in. Maybe you, again, made a decision that went against, like, your character or your values, and you're like, maybe just this one time, like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do this thing, and there was a direct consequence, a consequence that you are not happy, that you're disappointed in, as a result of that decision. Another way it could kind of come through is you made a decision that, like, didn't reflect all of the work that you've been doing on yourself, that maybe even compromised what you've been working so hard on. And lo and behold, it did have a consequence upon this thing that you've been building, or maybe some self-doubt has been welcomed into what felt so secure about your internal progress because of the consequences of this decision. Whatever the case is, the consequence of not keeping clean. Okay. I'm going to return to these 3 cards after I get into the tarot, because the tarot, once we get into the tarot, it can... Okay, let's just do it. The 7 of Cups next to the 6 of Cups, and then with the Sun. This 3-card combo in the sequence that it came in. And let me point out, all of these cards are upwards, and that very rarely happens because my shuffling progress makes sure that there are reversals. I flip half the deck, as I'm shuffling, so that I know that there are reversals. And we have 5 cards here. So, like, the probability, I don't know, I'm not a mathematician, but, like, all of them are upwards, which is beautiful. What does that tell me by itself? Is that you receive your messages well, whether from intuition, if you are of faith, from whatever you have faith, like, whatever messages come through, you're very willing and capable of seeing these things for what they are and accepting them and internalizing them. And in turn, by you internalizing them, being able to bear the fruit of its manifestations because you're, like, acting upon what you've internalized. Okay. But this 3-card sequence of the 7 of Cups, which is a card of leaving no stone unturned where it comes to, like, contemplating certain things. That's how I'm getting it in the context of this reading. The 6 of Cups being one of nostalgia, and the Sun, which means a whole bunch of things in this specific spread, but within the context of, like, this 3-card sequence that I'm talking about, I'm seeing it as the ego. And these 3 cards, which are very much about, like, memory and poring over things that have happened, overthinking and over analyzing what people said, what people have done, whether in specific relationships, romantic or otherwise, or just, like, in general. You have this overactive analytical mind. And, like, even like your feelings also run away from you and get very nostalgic and pore over everything that happens. So, like, you probably count yourself as someone, like, very sensitive, as someone who doesn't let things go very easily, and that's okay. That's okay. That's human. That's okay. We're not going to shame that here. But what does that tell me is you're very likely the type of individual who operates, if not physically, at least internally, like where your mental processes are concerned. You are the type of individual who does very much rely on habit. You stick to the thought processes that you stick to the same thoughts that you stick to. Again, you pore over the same things, and you're comfortable staying there. You're comfortable in this space of processing and digesting and getting as much information and data as you can from those things. And I'm not here to shame that either. But the cards kind of are, because the next 2 cards, and mind you, these 3 cards I'm going to come back to them, but these next 2 cards addressing this 3-card sequence and what those 3 cards are telling me. The Ace of Cups is, okay, that was you, this is who you are. This is someone who's, like, pores over everything, and, you really, like, dwell on things. Well, in comes this Ace of Cups. And this Ace of Cups, it's the person, the locket, the person that you have all of these feelings for. Why you have such strong feelings for them is because how do I word this? Like, this is going to sound so, like, sterile, but I don't mean it as sterile as it sounds. It's just these are the words that are coming through for me to, like, properly articulate the way that I'm seeing it. Is the data that this individual gave you to process has been very different than any of the other individuals or things that you've had to like process and pour over. So, okay, let's say before you met this person, you would always think about like your nice memories and the ones that you had. And then maybe you had like certain exes or an ex that you like thought about a lot and you poured over all of that and et cetera, et cetera. You had like this finite set of memories and thoughts that you would pour over and process and like sit with, basically. And in comes this person, and okay, you know, you meet them, you develop feelings, you develop thoughts and opinions about this person. And so, you know, now you have all of these new thoughts and memories to add to your set that you can now pour over and like analyze. And the thing is, you like what you've gained from analyzing these things. Even if it feels impossible, even if it feels like it's never really going to happen with this individual, like there is, even if it's a subconscious one, although it doesn't really feel like one, it's a subconscious or otherwise recognition of, you do like that, the feelings that spring from this person. You like, there's something that you enjoy about like liking this person so much. And beyond that, it is also because you're really attracted to this person. They're coming through as the Emperor. Now, give me a second before I continue to talk about the deck that I felt called to use for this pile. First of all, the 3 decks that were chosen for this specific readings, for the one I uploaded here, Love Readings for Singles, are 3 decks that I never use. It's just they're excellent. I love these decks. They're gorgeous, and I'm about to explain why I love this one so much. But like, they're just ones that I never really like feel called to use, as much as like other ones that I use more consistently really feel like come to the forefront of my mind whenever I'm like, which ones should I use? But for whatever reason, I like, this was the one. And what I love about this deck is that it gender swaps all of the kings and queens. It makes all of the knights princesses, and then all of the pages are the princes. And then, so because it gender swaps all of that, it also gender swaps the emperor and the empress. And so traditionally in tarot, the 3rd major arcana belongs to the empress, and the 4th belongs to the emperor. And so we'll see in other decks that the empress is number 3 and the emperor is number 4. But in this deck, because of the gender swap, 3 belongs to the emperor and 4 belongs to the empress. And yes, they are gender swapped, where he is portrayed in a more feminine and a abundant kind of energy. And in this deck, she is depicted in a warrior's armor, and she has like a sword and shield. And the shield is iconic to the empress, regardless of deck. Like, she is almost always depicted holding a shield. But this is the only deck I've seen her in the totality of that garb, where it's not just the shield, but the armor as well. So, why is that important to me? I mean, I love that just out of uniqueness. And, you know, if you just can't tell from the sound of my voice, I am also... I appreciate gender swap things. Let's just leave it that way for sake of brevity. But like, the fact that this was the deck that was meant for pile 1, and that pile 1 not only has like this gender swap deck, but that it also came through with Stephanie, which, if you haven't watched the Steven Universe, Stephanie is the physical amalgamation, like physical manifestation of the mixing of 2 people. How is this possible? Because one of the characters is magic. We'll leave it at that. And so because they are very best friends, and they're super close and they love each other, when they are in danger, they can merge and they become a new individual. Now, this isn't like the both of them controlling different parts of the body. No, they become an entirely new consciousness, an entirely new being, and they are their own individual person. And this is Stephanie. Why that is so significant is because this is the first time that it's happened with a male character, because all of the other magical creatures that exist, well, I don't want to call them creatures, oh my god, but the magical beings that exist in that universe are all feminine. They're all women. And so there's the character Stephanie is very heavily trans/non-binary/ gender non-conforming coded, because of what they are at their core, which is a boy and a girl merged together. And so we have this like dissonance from like the gender binary, not only in Stephanie, but then also in the tarot deck that was used for this specific pile. Now, this is where we get into the nitty gritty of this. There are going to be a specific few of you for whom this reading is touching upon sexuality, and or gender identity. Now, don't get scared. If it doesn't apply to you, don't let me be the one who's like bringing this news to you. It should not be news to you. It should only be a confirmation. If you're like, wait, might I be? I invite you and encourage you to explore that line of questioning and be honest with yourself, because it's very possible you might not be. And that's okay. It's very possible you might be. And that's great too. But okay. Now, if it's not true for you, it's not true for you, there's still, like, the rest of the reading applies to you too. But if that is true for you, the rest of the reading applies to you. But I have more to say about that, but we'll leave that until the very end. Okay, now I hope you understand why I'm getting that this, for some of you, is like touching upon those things because of that 3-card sequence of like habits, mental habits, like physical habits that you have pertained to, that your ego has pertained to, and that because of you meeting this individual is now offering you a new way to look at things. So this is very likely the first person of, you know, like if like, you know, they're the same sex as you, like this is the first time that you've been attracted to that type of person. Now, again, I'm going to get back to that message later. Let's get back to like broader first so that we can talk about like everyone who's here. This individual is someone that you recognize a lot of value in, not just because you're attracted to them, but because they are of value. They have shown you, maybe not because they I can tell you because they're coming through as the Emperor / the Empress, basically, that anything that they have proven to you, they never meant to prove to you. They don't care about proving anything to anyone. They're just excellent, and so that excellence just abounds around them. So I understand why you have such a crush on them and has such heavy feelings for them. As with the one card that they are coming through as, and with the reaction that I'm seeing you had, like, this is someone very impressive. But okay. That's what the cards are saying about the situation that is going on. Let's get into the advice here. You're regarding this entire situation from a place of fear, from a place of smallness, from a place of inexperience, from who you're looking at all of this and you're quote unquote experiencing it as the individual that you were before all of the development, before all of this work that you've done on yourself. And that's okay. That is not a failure on your part. What is happening is your mind is doing what it does. The mind just likes shortcuts. And so it's relying on the habits that it knows are going to keep you safe. The ones that are familiar to you, the ones that don't make you nervous, because we don't want to be nervous. Nervousness is bad. It's scary. We don't want to feel that. Are you sure about that though? Because to have worked on yourself and have brought yourself this far to the point that you have things to show for it means that at some point you have sat with some uncomfortable things in order to have developed yourself so far. It means that you do understand the value and the merit of doing some hard work, some uncomfortable work, in order to get the results that you want. Now, don't allow yourself to take that as, oh, well, if I just continue to do really hard work and like be impressive, I'll get this person. Let me be very clear. There is nothing in this reading that it's telling me how you're going to get this person. Nothing at all. So you might want to check another reading if that's your intention. It's just that's not what's coming through. It's all about you. But okay. The 7 of Cups is asking you to be a little more aware of how restricting it is to be so conservative. Because in essence, that is what you're doing. You are being conservative with what you allow yourself to think about, with what you allow yourself to feel. And I don't know if you've noticed, hun, but not one of us has any control over the emotions that come. Like, if this is about a particular individual, like, I mean, what am I talking about? Like, you've noticed that, like, you had no choice in developing feelings the way that you did for this person. They just sprang up as crazy as they did. And I'm not, crazy is not a judgment here. I'm just talking about, like, because they're to the point that you're, like, feeling the way that you are. So it's almost like that's the point, is that this whole experience, the trigger is there to highlight to you how comfortable you've been in the way that you've been operating, and that's why you're freaking out, is because this is so different and outside of your comfort zone that it's like, wait, what do you mean something new? I can't like someone, I can't have all of these feelings for someone, blah, blah, blah. And actually, yes, you can. Actually, you'll find that when you stopping yourself from developing crushes and feelings on people, it happens quite often. It's actually quite easy to develop like feelings on people. One, because a lot of people are attractive, and two, because some people have great personalities and you just are in proximity to them. Now, whether or not it's usually not appropriate to pursue those things unless that person is giving you clear signals that that's what they want. But like, just, that's my whole point, is that you're looking at this whole experience as if it's gonna be the end of the world. Like, you having these feelings is the worst thing that could happen to you. Like you're never gonna, if that, the fact that you're experiencing this impossible thing, it's like you're never gonna get over this and this is just the woe of your life and it's the worst. No, it's actually not. And you'll find that this experience, if you allow it to, can kind of open you up to a bigger capacity of discomfort if you engage with this discomfort. If you engage with this discomfort actively and don't run away from it and just acknowledge it for what it is, like, yeah, I do have all of these feelings and it does feel uncomfortable, but it is what it is and it's my truth. What am I going to do about it? Even if it's just being honest with yourself, sometimes that's all that's appropriate. That sometimes the only person we can tell about a crush about is ourselves, because we got to keep it to ourselves, because sometimes it's a little bit embarrassing or it's just inappropriate or what, like if it's like that, the few of you that I'm talking about that we'll get to at the end, like, we can understand why this isn't something that you want to talk about, because it's so different from what you're used to. And you'll find, like, why is that? It's not a crime. Like, you're actually going to find that, like, whatever it is that you're feeling, and I'm talking to all of you again, it's like, you're feeling what you're feeling. It is what it is. Let's stop villainizing ourselves for it. With the Six of Cups, it's advising you to pay attention to how, and this is true for all of us, this is just good advice for everyone, because of the way that the psyche operates. It's that standard advice of what set up that trigger in the first place. So, think back to the first time you felt this, like, why is having these feelings such a hard thing for you? And if you allow yourself, as uncomfortable as it might be, but because you've developed yourself, you are now capable to handle going back and thinking about these things. Think back to the heartbreak that causes all of this nervousness in the first place. That, like, this person is triggering all of these feelings and you're like, oh my God, I can't have feelings for this person. Let's just call them Arnold, regardless of their gender. Like, I'm just going to refer to the person that you have feelings for as Arnold, just so I can be clear, and so that I'm not using all of these pronouns. So let's say that Arnold's, the entire point of Arnold and the feelings that you have for Arnold, let's just say the whole point of that, at least as it pertains to this reading, is that they are triggering this uncomfortable response within you. And that's what's trying to be highlighted. Like, why are you uncomfortable? And when you allow yourself to follow that line of questioning, you'll find whatever's waiting for you there. The reason for why you're so uncomfortable with having these feelings in the first place, maybe because the last time you had these feelings, or every time that you have these feelings, it blows up in your face. Okay, well, if you are really developing yourself, the next step in that is to relieve yourself of, okay, I need to word this well. Weaken. There you go. You need to weaken the hold that these triggers have on you, because in order to continue on with what it is that you're building, it's going to require that you're not as easily triggered, that you're not as easily swayed. And so you're being asked to engage with these discomforts to basically strengthen yourself. And by strengthening yourself by weakening the hold and impact that these triggers have on you. And you do that by actively facing, as uncomfortable and as scary as it might be, actively facing what it was that put those triggers in there in the first place. Okay. Sun is then an invitation to step out of the perspective that you're used to looking at all of these things through, which is one of smallness and powerlessness and whatever it was that you define yourself as. When you experience those first heartbreaks, the ones in the past, which is what is created the circumstances that you are quote unquote now used to, that, you know, your brain is relying on as you're engaging with this new interaction, with this new connection, with this new person that you have feelings for. Sun is basically saying, what would it look like for you to actually be hopeful about this? That doesn't mean it's going to happen. That doesn't, again, none of this reading is saying, yeah, it'll happen if you just believe. No, that's just, I'm sorry. But the point is, what would it look like for you to stop shaming and villainizing not only that person, but like the feelings that you have for them? What would it mean for you to just hold it in tenderness and lightness and just be like, yeah, I do have feelings for this person. They are a great person. What would it mean if you just stopped being uncomfortable with feeling these things? What would it mean if you just sat comfortably with the notion that you have feelings for someone? What if you just accepted that? What would it mean for you to have that type of strength? It would mean that you have that would be just another thing that you have to show for the development and work that you're doing on yourself. And that is the point, my friends. That is what this person had, like, not, I know, let me take that. I was about to say that is what this person has to offer you. No, that is what you have to offer yourself. Like, this person's just a catalyst for all this. That's the Ace of Cups and them like being on the other side of that. Like, they were there in their awesomeness and their excellence. You developed feelings and like, boom, you were triggered to have all of these, feelings of like a discomfort and I don't know why I'm feeling these things from them. And it's like, well, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have feelings for this person. Now what? Now, okay, let's get into hypotheticals here. What if it is possible? What if the only reason you think it's impossible is because you hate having these feelings so much? And that's it. What if there are actually no obstacles? What if it's just your insecurity? What if this person is excellent, but they would give you a shot if, like, you were serious enough and showed them that you were courageous enough to approach them? They are coming through as the Empress, so I'm very sure that they're used to people staring at them, looking at them, being in silent competition with them, as you kind of are. Even if you might not see it this way, you having all of this, like, villainizing the feelings that you have for them, that is you, that is a type of competition. Like, you're looking at them and you're sending them all this weird energy. And they're very likely used to that. So what I'm sure they're, like, people like that, I mean, it's going to differ for different, like, individuals. But, like, although people can send all of this indirect energy at them, it's very few people that will do it directly. So I don't know, maybe if you, like, stopped villainizing yourself for it and just allowed yourself to accept these things, and if you allowed yourself to get comfortable with with these feelings, which you are feeling uncomfortable in right now for whatever reason it is for you. I'm not saying for whatever reason as in I don't know, for whatever reason as it pertains to you, as this reading is hitting you. And then if you, like, got comfortable with those things, you might feel emboldened enough to, like, go approach them and be like, hey, I think we should get to know each other. And you never know what, I don't know. The point is, you're being invited to look at the way that this triggers you, what is triggered, and to analyze that. You who likes to pore over things and gain all of this information, cool. Well, that's your task now. Pore over that. Overanalyze that. And then in doing so, weaken the hold that those triggers have on you. Because you're engaging with them so often that you'll be able to see them as they arise. And it's like, oh, yes, I recognize that now. Yeah. But okay. Now, that is what I have for everybody who is here. Let me close off real quick. For those of you who it is that, like, we're touching upon, you know, someone who is different than anyone you have been attracted to before. And it basically is it's communicating to you that you are more than what you have previously thought of yourself. And I do word it that way specifically. It's not that you aren't what you used to be in the past. If it's straight, it's not that you're not straight anymore. Yeah, that's true. It's just that you're just something else. You're more, and that's not a bad thing. Allow, like, if you villainize that because of a religious thing or just like a social thing, I'm sure you've noticed that enough of us exist out here and we haven't blown up. Our lives are great. We are happy, fulfilled individuals. The only reason you might, like, be uncomfortable with the notion might be because you are uncomfortable with anything that's not familiar to you. And that's okay. That you accepting this part of yourself doesn't mean that you automatically have to come out and say it to everybody and now everybody knows and oh my god, now my entire life is it. You can stay in that closet as long as you need to. No one is rushing you. You are in complete control of your life. And anybody who shames you for that, like let's say in the future at some point you go to some like gathering and you're around gay people or queer people who are not straight basically, and they say something along the lines of like, just come out, like, not to you, but just like, I don't understand people who are in the closet, or like, there's nothing but greatness out here, like hurry up. Or no, actually, you move at your own pace because it's your own life. And anybody who speaks like that is speaking from privilege, from a privilege of not knowing a legitimate fear in something like that coming out because of the very real consequences that might come from that coming out. What I want to say to those of you who are specifically afraid for those reasons is, as impossible as it might feel, it is possible to build a life unknown to those people. Now, that might feel like lying. That might feel like sneaking around. And honestly, it might take that. But I encourage you to think on the fact that people like, I want to say people like us, but it like makes it sound like so othered, and that's not what it is. But it's like we've existed throughout all of history. Regardless of what people might want us to believe, we have existed for as long as humans have existed. It exists. We just have. And we don't know about it because it's been so villainized throughout society. And the thing is, you exist at a point in history where there are enough spaces in the world for you to be safe in. And if it's as extreme as you making long-term plans to make, we're getting ahead of ourselves, right? Because it's like, you're not even there yet. You're not even at the point where you're like, oh my God, I have to like uproot my life. And no, you actually don't. You can keep your life and then just operate as you need to behind closed doors. Now, allow me to say that you choose to live in the closet doesn't mean you have any right or entitlement to expecting that your partner be okay with that. Whether it's this individual or any partner that you might have in the future, there are some couples who like are both going to stay in the closet and they're happy that way. And if that's what you want and if that's what comes your way, I truly, genuinely hope that you get that. I'm just trying to point out, like, don't operate under the assumption that because, well, I'm in the closet, like, I don't care if you are, but like, I can't be out. It's like there are going to be some people out there who just don't want to be with someone like that. And that's okay. That is their right, as it is your right to remain in the closet. And I just kind of want to prepare you for that in case you're kind of hoping and having certain expectations. You are like, just stop villainizing yourself. You are not evil. You are not dirty. You are not wrong. This isn't the end of the world. I promise you. And I'm sorry that the circumstances in your life have led you to those conclusions. I have been there. I know what that's like. As someone who has broken free of the shackles of a very, very staunchly religious upbringing, allow me to tell you that it is possible to exist happily. And that you can process that guilt that you feel that you're going to disappoint not just those around you, but divinity itself. I promise you, like, if this might sound like heresy, but I speak confidently. I promise you, divinity, I promise you, God wants you to be happy. There's a reason you haven't been able to pray it away. And it's because there's nothing to pray away. It's because this is just your truth. And the joy that can come through, and not only an acceptance of that, but the joy that can come from you being loved the way that you can be loved by the person that you want to be loved by, that's what's accessible to you if you accept yourself. So as someone who's developed yourself and you've come this far, don't skimp out, don't short out on yourself now. You have come this far, take yourself all the way. Don't give up on yourself now. Don't give up on your joy. Don't give up on your possibility just because you're afraid. And I don't want to say just because you're afraid, like, take it as slow as you need to. Be scared and do it anyway, is my point. Because you've come this far. And again, as someone who has traveled the road, I promise you there's a lot to be gained here. Like, the peace that there is to be gained, like, it's worth it, I promise. Godspeed to you, my friend. You are seen, you are loved, you are not alone. I really hope that this helped, and if possible, I hope to catch you at another one. Bye. Hello, Pile 2, and welcome to your reading. Now, before I begin, I do want to say that if at any point in this reading you're confused, it's not your reading. I usually, as a reader, like to give mundane examples so that you can apply to make it easier to apply these more vague messages to whatever it might mean in your particular case. And sometimes that can be helpful, but in some cases that can kind of be a little bit restrictive. And this is one of those cases where I just need to get out of the way and allow for you to determine for yourself if it makes sense or if it doesn't. So if it doesn't, if it's just all a little too vague, it's not your message. If it's for you, it will come through crystal clearly. So, how is love finding you? In a phrase, ready to take on what used to feel scary. We have cards that indicate a connection, or it doesn't have to necessarily be a direct connection, but a capacity to discern, a capacity to, on one end of the spectrum, it's that you are a spiritual individual who counts yourself as connected to what it is that you have faith in. At the other end of the spectrum, it's someone who you're learning how to trust yourself, or you do trust yourself wholeheartedly. The point is, you either do have this trust in your faith or yourself, or you have the capacity to, and you're beginning to wield that. Beyond that, there's this sense of you're feeling empowered by your capacity, not only this connection that you have in this capacity for faith and trust in whatever it is that you have faith and trust in, you're also having faith and trust in yourself. You're also understanding that you can trust yourself, that you've shown yourself and you've done enough work to have faith in yourself. And as such, you're ready to take on environments and on tasks and on things that have before felt scary to you because you feel more capable, which comes with confidence, a sense of courage. When we move into the next portion of the reading, which covers the question of what we're talking about today, we have... Okay, so there... The cards we have are Letter, Key, and Hilda. Why Hilda? Because the deck itself is called The Wonderful World of Hilda Lenormand, which the artist of this character took, I'm assuming, existing images, or slightly, if not existing ones, they slightly tweaked certain Lenormand cards to their style. And so usually in a Lenormand deck, we'll have a card for a man and a lady to indicate yourself and another individual, however it applies to the specific reading. But this deck, because it's all about Hilda, so there's not going to be a male card, instead of giving a card that's Hilda, like a male and a masculine and a feminine one, it just gives two separate Hilda cards. Which I really like. I really appreciate that. I like that difference. But in this case, I know that it's not pertaining to anybody that you might have feelings for or anybody outside of yourself. I know that in this context of this reading, the Hilda card is pertaining to you for the reason that she is positioned in the Hilda card not exact way, but very similarly to the way that the same character is posed in the first two cards, facing the left, slightly hunched over, just this kind of same posture. And then even down to the fact that in the first three cards, the character card that's describing you, Connie, she's facing to the left as well. So all of these cards facing the same direction, posed in somewhat similar ways, and that confirmed to me that this Hilda card is pertaining to you. So Letter is about a message, Key is about something that is unlocked, obviously, and then Hilda is pertaining to you. So this is where it's vague, where you've received a message that has unlocked something about yourself. How could that be applied? Again, I'm not trying to give too many examples, but I'm like, just, it could be just to kind of confirm if it helps. It could be that the message you received was one, like, through your own, like, faith, like whatever that might be, however you receive messages in that faith. If you read cards, or you go out and you get tarot readings for yourself, or you do a lot of pick a cards, maybe a message that you received through one of those really helped unlock something about yourself, really helped you to understand something about yourself that you hadn't before. Another way that this could come through, since this is a love reading, a romantic reading, it could be that a message that you received from someone sparked in you either just like feelings for them, it helped, like, you didn't realize you had feelings for that person until that message came through, or the message that this person gave to you helped you understand something. Now, that last bit about, like, this message helped you understand something about yourself, that part that could have come from anyone. That didn't necessarily have to be like a romantic partner for this to ring true for you. But again, this message that helped you understand something about yourself that you either were struggling to understand or you didn't even realize you didn't understand about yourself, it's helped kind of determine something for you, basically. And so to get into what tarot is saying, we have the Ace of Pentacles, and the Ace of Pentacles is ringing here as this truth, this whatever has been unlocked about you that is being referred to by the Lenormand portion with key, and with Hilda being unlocked, like whatever you've realized. That's what the Ace of Pentacles is talking about. And what this realization, what this message has unlocked, what it's touching on, and you might not be fully aware of this, you might not be fully conscious of this, because the moon is talking about the subconscious. In fact, the Ace of Pentacles is here the Ace of Hedgehogs, because I'm using the Alice in Wonderland deck, the Disney movie version. And so the hedgehogs are, the little animals that the Queen of Hearts uses as her croquet balls, basically. And so here, the Ace of Pentacles is just like one hedgehog kind of rolled up, and their eyes are closed, kind of like they look like they're sleeping, basically. And so next to the moon, it does give this energy of like a sleepiness, subconscious dream state. Whatever the case is, it's that part of your mind that you are not conscious of, because the conscious mind is like depicted by the sun, what you are like consciously aware of. But then there are parts of the brain that we are not consciously aware of, the subconscious, but then also wherever dreams come from, which a lot of people do conclude is the subconscious. Whatever the case is, there is this energy in these cards, even with the next card, the Six of Cups, of being in this like dreamlike state of, maybe it's just as simple as ignorance, how we were picking up with Lenormand, where it was like it's touching on something that you didn't realize about yourself before. Or it could be, no, that's just the message, that this, you really didn't realize how much this truth kind of unlocked for you. And also, I don't think you've fully realized just how impactful, how layered this truth is that's coming through. And it's such a potent truth, it's such a potent realization, it's so powerful that it's actually enabling you and like encouraging, not just encouraging you, but you actually feel capable of moving away from habitual mindsets, habitual feelings, anything that you've dwelled on in the past. You feel ready to move beyond. And that's what this realization has kind of touched upon. It's kind of helped you realize, like, you are over things you thought you would never be over. You are over things you didn't realize you were over. Things that impacted you so heavily before. This new realization, this new experience is kind of triggering in you. It's hitting triggers that you're realizing those triggers aren't as strong as they used to be. And so, okay, I want to take a pause here to kind of elaborate on the connection between the moon and the Six of Pentacles, because the moon is a very watery card. Traditionally, the moon card is depicted with some type of water because the moon itself is traditionally associated with the ocean and therefore water. And the cups suit is the suit associated with water because cups hold liquid and liquid, you get it. And so with the Ace of Pentacles talking about like this new realization is kind of moving something in the subconscious parts of yourself, this watery part of yourself. And now these vessels, the Six of Cups, it's coming up reversed. And so there's this imagery, there's this, like, you can almost see it in your head when you turn a vessel that's holding water inside of it upside down, it's going to empty. You're dropping that water from it. And since the moon is about the subconscious mind, and you're emptying these vessels, it's like you're emptying old thought patterns and patterns of behavior, and you're making space for new ones to come in that reflect not only what this new realization is making you aware of, but that reflect that thing that you're becoming aware of, which is the fact that you've changed, you have developed, you have grown past and beyond who you've been in the past. That's kind of redundant, but you've transcended what you've been in the past. Let's leave it at that. Now, I wanted to elaborate on that, or I wanted to kind of give that imagery of the Six of Cups reversed, meaning this emptying of the vessel, emptying of the water, and give that its own purpose. Because that in and of itself is a triumph, right? Whenever we're able to relieve ourselves of old patterns for the sake of new ones that reflect our development, like, that's always a triumph. That's always a good thing in and of itself. But next to that card, we have the Two of Wands, which in this deck are flowers. And so it's impossible not to see the connection between vessels being emptied and then flowers blossoming from it. So I kind of want to point out how, like, it's coming through in different ways where, even the things that to you might feel like, if you feel in any way, shape, or form that the things that you are tossing out, these old patterns of behavior, these old things, if in any way, shape, or form you feel guilty or disappointed or like ashamed of those things that you're tossing out in space for the new, better things, understand that it's not those things, you are not a bad person. You shouldn't feel guilty. You shouldn't feel bad because you've developed past it. You're putting it away from you. And that in and of itself is redemption. That's going to apply differently for all of you. Obviously, if you have things to redeem yourself for beyond just internal work, that is your prerogative, and take that beyond this reading. But basically, what I'm seeing it as is like nothing is wasted. Even those things that you are tossing away, like even that is a resource that some other things are going to sprout from. And that's what's being said here, is through this work that you're doing, you've developed yourself, you have new things to fill your vessel with. The things that you're tossing out, those things will serve as inspiration and information for you to take forward in your in your relationships, basically. But since it's a love reading, in your romantic relationships. So these two cards together, the Six of Cups reversed from the Two of Wands, the way I'm seeing, the way that it's coming through in these cards of like flowers blossoming from you tossing out old patterns of behavior. A couple of things that I'm seeing. The first is kind of what I said, where as you move into new relationships and new connections, you'll be able to take everything that you've learned in the past and that you've developed yourself from. That will inform the way that you move in those new connections, and you'll have victory because of it. But also, allow for... Okay, it's the first mundane example that I'm getting. But like, let's say in the past, one of the things that maybe it was 90% that person's fault and like you had a lot to process. However, whatever. The point is, you recognize in yourself, like, okay, I could have done some things differently. Like, even if it wasn't my fault that things ended, or however much it was my fault, like, these are the things that I'm aware of I would have liked to have done differently. This is an opportunity for you to put that into practice. That's kind of what's coming through. The other thing that's coming through with this imagery is the ways that you are moving, the new ways that you're moving, the new things that you're putting into these vessels, like what you're developing into, because you have sacrificed the things that you are leaving behind and are embracing these new ways of being, these new patterns of thought and behavior, that's going to gain you access to connections you didn't have access to before, and ones that you're going to be happy you now have access to. Because not only just because of these two cards, but because we end with the King of Pentacles. So if this truth that we're talking about, that with the Ace of Pentacles, right, this realization that is cataclysing everything that we're talking about here, and it's not even cataclysing the transformation that you've been going through, rather this truth that's coming through, this message that has unlocked whatever it's unlocked for you, that's meant to highlight all of the work that you've been doing. So you're okay. The Ace of Pentacles, oh my God, the King of Pentacles is coming through as someone who it has the capacity to recognize all of this work that you've been doing. And so this is what I'm talking about, where because you are moving in new ways, because that's going to be recognized by the right person. Someone will see, someone is going to see and like this new you, but bonus, once they get to know you a little bit, I mean, even maybe they're just that discerning, or maybe it's just that obvious. They'll be able to recognize oh, this person's left some shit behind. This person has they've gone through some things and they've changed. Maybe this is someone who's witnessed the whole thing. I don't know. The point is, this is someone who can recognize yeah, they've come a long way, and not only were they put through the ringer, they did something with it. Beyond that, the King of Pentacles is also talking about you, where it's you being the King of Pentacles, where you take all of these experiences and you make something from it. So it's kind of a double whammy here with the King of Pentacles, where it's both you and some romantic connection some romantic connection you have access to in the future. But okay, that is where I'm going to leave it, because again, if it's meant for you, it is going to be crystal clear, and you got the message, and I don't need to elaborate on it. Godspeed, my friend, in all of your endeavors. I hope that it helps. Oh my God, what is wrong with me? If you've lasted this long, then this message was for you. Thank you so much for being here. Hope that it helped, and I hope to catch you at another reading. Bye. Hello, Pile 3, and welcome to your love reading. Now, I'll be honest with you, I could keep this message short and sweet, because every layer of this reading is saying the same thing, basically. But we're going to get into it, because each layer has different things to add on to the general message, which is, in a phrase, get up off that floor. If you're in no type of heartbreak, if you're feeling pretty good about life and your prospects, and, you're feeling hopeful, this is not your reading. Because every layer of this reading is talking about going through it. You're not over whatever ended, however long ago it ended. It could be fresh. It could have been a minute ago. And not only are you not over it, you are feeling very raw about it. You're having very big emotions about it. In fact, you don't know how to not feel this way. But let's get into the specifics of each layer, because how is love finding you? Now, this isn't in terms of answering the question of how will it be when love in a romantic sense comes to you? No, it's rather saying, how is love regarding you and defining you right now? And we have here Roaming Eye, that's from Steven Universe. We have Dexter from Dexter's Lab, and then the Car Wash from also Steven Universe. And I'm giving the last two piles, I really didn't get into the specifics and get into deep explanations of the cards, but I'm going to with this pile so that you understand. I'm not pulling the message out of my ass. The cards are literally saying it, okay? Roaming Eye is what the bad, quote unquote, they're bad guys. They're very technologically advanced, and this is their form of probing out into the world and keeping tabs on things and spying on people, etc., etc. That's why it's called the roaming eye, because it's the eye that roams so that they can see things. Dexter isn't necessarily, how do I word this? Like, he's very systemic and he knows how to execute a well thought out plan because he's very intelligent. The word that comes to mind is scheming. Yes, he has the capacity to scheme and he schemes, but it's not his, like, usually he invents something because he wants something. You know what, actually, I'm thinking back and he was the schemer, wasn't he? There was always something he couldn't get for whatever reason, and so he would scheme his way at it with his smarts to get that thing. Wow, okay, sorry, misremembering a little. I'm apparently a Dexter apologist. Anyways, okay, Dexter, very scheming, and that's kind of what I'm seeing it as, especially with paired with Roaming Eye being such a technological advance. It's right on par with Dexter. This to me comes across as you are either like constantly checking this person's socials. If you are near where this person is at, you are looking out to see if you can see what they're up to, what they're doing. It could even go as, like, in some situations, it could be that you're like even continuing conversations with this person, even though they're not really like, they respond to you, but very rarely, if at all, do they message you first. There's this idea of you just like keeping tabs and making sure that you're not letting this go. You're keeping this in your line of sight. If it's not that you're doing that with this individual specifically, where it's that you're not keeping tabs on them, like you really don't know what they're up to or whatever, it's that you're always keeping the memories, those feelings that you have about the situation and the ending, that's always in your line of sight. That's what you never really let out of your sight, per se. And, okay, so, you know, there's two cards explained. Car Wash is where the main character's dad works/lives, meaning that Steven is always going to find him there. Like, Steven can count on finding his dad at the car wash, and 90% of the time he's right. The other 10%, it's because he's in his van somewhere writing music. The point, I'm sorry, I'm not going to say this next bit because I'm using the word to describe you, okay, per se. I'm trying to get you to understand what I'm saying. The show isn't very forgiving. Well, actually, it's very forgiving, but in essence, they do let you know that the dad's a bit of a bum, okay? They don't do much. He doesn't do much with his life. He has a great heart, but he can't let go of the past, and so that's why you can always find him where he's always at, because he never leaves. He never leaves his habitat. He's so predictable. He's always going to be exactly where you left them. And so that's how you're being defined, as someone who cannot let go of this thing. And so it's like, it's almost probably a trait that I don't know if it's this heavy. I don't know how open you are or how much people know about this, but if people do know about like what's going on and you aren't afraid to vocalize this to a person or to people that you're like keeping tabs on this person, they do form the opinion of like, it's like a habit. It's like a trait. Like, it's just, you're stuck on that. It's like, of course they're still there. Like, they've been there forever. Of course they're still stuck on it. They've been stuck on it forever. Now, fuck what people think all the time, forever. Like, it's never about like, ooh, people are saying this about you, so you should stop. Fuck that. But it's more, I'm just trying to point that out so that you understand that this is something that is not just internal. It comes through. Even if you feel like you're doing really well at hiding it, you're probably not. And even if nobody can see it, it wouldn't take much for someone to notice that this is something that you're doing. So, okay, yes, you're down bad. You're not letting this go. And, you know, I get it. I'm gonna stay silent in those judgments because I can't say that I haven't been there. I get it. Sometimes we dwell, sometimes we can't let shit go. It's okay. I am a fixed sign, so I do know what it means to fixate. Like, believe me, I do. Now, have I gone to the point of borderline, if not full on stalking the people that the people that I've done on? No, I've never done that. That could, just no, it's not me. But okay, these first three cards are saying what they're saying, and so you understand where that message is coming through, where it's like, get up off that floor. Because, okay, right, like, it might be excusable. This behavior might be, like, well within reason in my eyes if, like, the ending was just disrespectful and it just happened. Like, a week. I'd even go as far as to say, like, the first 6 months post that breakup, if you're feeling really raw about it and if it was really disrespectful, okay, you know what? You go ahead and crash out. You've earned it. Be willing to pay the consequences, but go ahead and do your thing. Go ahead and do your thing. But if it's been past that, hun, we need to find other avenues for our brain to stimulate our brain. Like, there are other ways to pass our time, I promise. But okay. Let's get into the next 3 cards, which are answering the question, what are we talking about today? Which is, pretty much a repetition of what we've been saying. Because Hilda, in this particular deck, a Lenormand deck is always going to have a card for a man and a card for a woman to refer to either the person asking the question or who they're asking it about, if they're asking about a person. If you're new here, know that I don't really ascribe like gender to anything. So it's like, even though we might get a Queen of Swords, that might be referring to a man. That's true across like tarot per se, but like I try my best not to gender anything too much. Why I'm saying that is because, or rather why I'm pointing any of this out, is because in this deck, because all of the cards revolve around this character, Hilda. There is no card for a man or a woman. Instead, there's just 2 Hilda cards. And so this is one of them. So it's kind of up to the context of the reading to determine who the Hilda in the spread is referring to, whether it's you or the person that you're asking about. And so since this is a love reading about someone that you haven't gotten over, it could be referring to you or it could be referring to them. And in this particular case, the message comes twofold, where there's a message where it's referring to them and one where it's referring to you. So I'll start with where it's referring to you, because that's going to be true across the board, where when Hilda is referring to the person that you're not over, it's not going to be true for all of you. It's just meant to be like a deeper confirmation for some of you. So what's true for all of you is that Hilda is referring to you, and whip right next to it is you feeling the sting, you feeling the lashing, you feeling the pain, disappointment, whatever it is that you're feeling over this ending and this breakup, whatever it is that it was. And, that's why you're not over it, because it feels fresh. It feels new to you. No longer how long it's been, it still feels fresh and raw. And that's why we have clouds next to that, because this isn't just the momentary sting. It's like something that permeates over time, and it like we were saying with the first 3 cards, it's something that seeps into like everything that you do. It tinges your outlook on life. It tinges everything, like your day-to-day, basically. And so, okay, that's what's true for all of you. Now, what's true for some of you, if this is referring to that individual, whip next to the card referring to the person that you're not over, and then clouds, which is a card of sadness, being the conclusion. It kind of points to those of you who you're the one who ended it. You're the one who walked away, or you did something to hurt this person, whip, you did something to hurt this individual, and you drove them away, and that's why it's over now. Which might start to explain why you're fixated and you can't get over it, because deep down, it's your fault, basically, point blank. Now, okay, it doesn't have that, again, that's just for some of you. The message that's coming true, what am I saying? The message that's coming through, in the tarot cards, let me just give you the individual cards, because it's just the best way that we're going to be able to do this. We have the 6 of Swords reversed, the Ace of Wands reversed, the 5 of Pentacles reversed, the 8 of Swords upwards, and the 10 of Wands reversed. Now, I know it's, oh my god, so many reversal, it's so scary. Relax. The 6 of Swords reversed is just point blank repeating and anchoring what the first 2 layers of this reading have been saying. You're not letting this go easily. You are not getting over this this it's not smooth sailing getting over this. Because the 6 of Swords upwards would be like a smooth transition out of what you recognize just wasn't for you, you had no space there, so you're just like, okay, it's time to go. So then reversed, it's like, no, I know, you recognize it's over, you recognize there's really no, right, if there even is a hope to fix anything, it's definitely not right now, if there even is a hope to fix things, but still, here you are trying to, you just can't get over it. I'm not here to shame that, we're just going to move on, because it's just meant to affirm that, this message is for you. The Ace of Wands reversed is, to me, coming across as a feeling of failure. Now, obviously, if the message of like it being on you that this is over, that the Ace of Wands reversed is pointing clearly to that. But if it's not true, if you were the one who was burned, if you were the one who got hurt in this situation, if someone hurt you and you were like disrespected in that case, you might feel like it was something that you did. You might, instead of regarding this as their problem for not being able to recognize your worth, you're kind of looking at yourself like, well, did I not do something enough? Like, was I the problem? Like, so maybe the whole Dexter roaming eye thing is not just that you're over obsessing on them and what they're doing. You're also like, you're nitpicking yourself. You're like you're looking yourself over with a microscope. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, what do I need to fix? Like, what's going on? And so, like, you not get the Ace of Wands reverse kind of being a knock to your confidence, a self-doubt kind of a thing, where that feeling of failure kind of coming through in that way. Now, the Five of Pentacles is saying two different things. The first things that it's saying is that you feel like you're in the Five of Pentacles energy upwards when actually you're not. When actually you're not. And so that's why it's coming up reversed. The Five of Pentacles upwards energy is one of detriment and one of struggle. There you go. It's a card of struggle. And a struggle that's like difficult. It's a long period of struggle. A period of struggle that you get used to. And that's the important part. The Five of Pentacles upwards is a card of struggle that one gets used to. And so it's coming up reversed because it's like, okay, you're engaging with the struggle because it's what you're used to, and you don't even realize that if you were to go out and find something new to fixate on, you might realize how little you actually care about this still. Now, that's going to range for all of you. If it's fresh and you're feeling super raw about it, then the message for you is you kind of have to tire yourself out in this, like, you need to get this out of your system. And then you'll realize, like, once you kind of look for something else to put all of this energy into, you'll realize that this isn't, you got it all out of your system, so it's like, okay, I can get over it now. If it's that you've been here for a minute and it's been a while and, you know, you consciously recognize that you should be over this, then when, you know, find something new to fixate on, find something new to pour that energy and that attention into, and you'll find that you aren't as invested in that person and in what went wrong in that whole situation as you thought that you were. And so that's pretty much what the other message that the Five of Pentacles reversed was saying, where that period is over. That's also why it's coming up reversed. And so the Eight of Swords upwards is a card essentially of what I just talked about, of a self-made prison. But the thing about a self-made prison is that sometimes a self-made prison can, like, is good shit. It's like, it's a self-made prison, and we name it that because it's like, it holds us really tight. It's like we know ourselves, so we know how to keep ourselves bound. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about how, like, when I say, like, you made it yourself, which means you can take it down yourself. A kind of another way, like, because the traditional imagery of the Eight of Swords shows a person loosely bound, like by like these really loose ropes onto a stake, and then they have like this blindfold that's kind of falling off, but it's still covering their eyes, but you can tell it's like falling off. It's not at all tightly put onto their head. And then there's like these swords surrounding this individual that aren't very close together, and they're not very tall. So like once this person, in a few moments, when they realize that the ropes aren't too tight and that the blindfold can be taken off and they free themselves, they're going to be able to see that they can walk right out of this quote unquote prison. And that's the energy of the Eight of Swords, where it's like, it's when, you know, all these cards are saying, these first four cards are saying, is like, you're drowning in a puddle and you just kind of need to stand up and realize, oh, it's a puddle and I can just walk on out of here. Which again repeats the message of, get up off that floor now. Finally, with the 10 of Wands reversed, I mean, the 10 of Wands upwards is a card of carrying a burden home, basically, where we're like, it might be heavy and it might be a burden, but you see in the distance that home is there. So you're like, I'm going to make it home. I'm almost there. Just keep on persevering. Just keep on carrying it. This is what you've been doing, right? She's like, I'm just going to keep on carrying this. I'm just going to keep on holding on to this. It's a burden on me. I can feel the weight. But I'm just going to keep on holding it. I'm going to keep on holding it. So, okay. So if you keep, now that it's reversed, it's like the imagery of you taking that load off your back, stretching yourself and being like, okay, wow, what a relief to not have to carry this anymore. So this energy of the Eight of Swords of like self-liberation, and then the relief that comes in the 10 of Wands reverse, where it's like, oh, I was like carrying this weight and I realized that I don't have to. And so there's again that like energy of like, it's time to get up off that floor. It really is. Now, again, if it's that this is fresh and you haven't gotten it out of your system when you feel that you need to, go ahead. Just the message is coming through as once you've gotten that out of your system, you will be relieved and you will be able to get right on over this. But if it's been a minute and you're, it's time to move on, get up off that floor. It's time to get up off that floor, sweetie. My friend, I really hope that this helped. I wish you Godspeed in all of your endeavors, and I really hope to catch you at another one of my readings. Bye.